Caorlac, and Minister, thank you, and I will speak to the amendments, and I suppose the bill generally. As a member of the Joint Oireachtas Committee on Housing, Local Government and Heritage and Planning, it's a real privilege to work with my colleagues in this House and from the Dáil and your department, and representatives from all stakeholders, really, I suppose. And this piece of legislation is an important piece of legislation. It's one that we as a Joint Oireachtas Committee completed pre-legislative scrutiny on, albeit not without these most recent amendments. I suppose myself and my colleagues would see legislation as being an iterative process. This legislation, the Planning and Development Act, first introduced in 2000, the Foreshore legislation was back in the 1990s, and legislation constantly needs to be updated. And I think it is really important that we remember that we don't see today's debate as being an end point, as a termination. This actually is an amendment to existing legislation that will enable us to move forward. Everybody accepts and recognises, I don't believe I've heard anybody object to an initiative to try and improve our planning process and and the functions within the planning process. It is, to everybody's huge disappointment, the deterioration and disappearance of confidence in An Bord Pleanála. The allegations that were made, many of them, I suppose, have been made anecdotally for quite a while. There had been anecdotal discontent with it, but I suppose the serious allegations that ultimately the Minister referred to following consultation with the Attorney-General, the Director of Public Prosecutions, the Gardaí, and the Standards in Public Office are very serious, and they will have very serious consequences, and they've already had very serious consequences for our country and for our society and for development and planning generally. So it is imperative that every effort is made and that we all work together to try and establish or re-establish some level of confidence in a professional, objective, transparent planning system. The amendments here relating to An Bord Pleanála really are only short-term measures, and I suppose the government has signalled an acknowledgement of that by its indication to have much more substantive planning legislation brought forward in the new year. And that legislation will follow on from over a year's work. The Attorney-General working with the Minister and the Department and other stakeholders. And I look forward to the publication of the full legislation. I also look forward to engaging with all stakeholders in the pre-legislative scrutiny of that legislation. It is really important that when we undertake the making of new laws to create a consolidated, comprehensive and fit-for-purpose planning process, that we look at, and that the bill will look at, every element of the planning process, right from national planning to regional to city and county, right down to the very local level. And obviously, we have already the national planning framework and the regional plans and the county and city development plans. I know here in Dublin City and in local authorities all over the country, local authority members, but communities, residents, individuals, business owners, all stakeholders, be they environmentalists, be they cultural, be they in my own community, it's everything from parents and schools to clubs that engage in those city and county development plans, and they're really, really important. And the public participation in the making of those plans is paramount. The SDZ process, the strategic development zones and the local area plan process, they should also be reviewed. But I think it is also really important, and I suppose to acknowledge you, Minister, and government's recognition of the failure of the SHD process, which has led to even greater inertia and delays in the delivery of really important infrastructure, be it homes or other infrastructure, and has resulted in far too many judicial reviews. No homes, no vital infrastructure, be it schools or transport or environmental or energy, will ever be delivered through or in a courtroom. And it is really important that that SHD process was done away with. And I also believe that it should be acknowledged in this debate that the introduction of the large-scale residential development process is an absolute acknowledgement of, one, the primacy of local knowledge, local understanding of need, local ability to make decisions on what are good and what are not good planning proposals and development proposals for local communities. And the fact that the large-scale residential development process restored the decision-making at a local level is absolutely welcomed by councillors and by local authority members all over the country. And I want to acknowledge the fact that acceptance of the failure of the SHD process was the government's acceptance of that failure, and most importantly, I suppose, the proactive, constructive action of introducing the large-scale residential development process, which, as I say, restores local decision-making at a local authority level and allows for community participation, residents' participation, local businesses, local schools, local organisations, environmental groups. It invites anyone with an interest in those developments to engage and to participate and to have their say. Obviously, the local authority members are the bedrock of our democracy. They are the people who champion their local communities' ambitions and opportunities, and they are best positioned, I believe, to guide development and to inform development in their local areas. Those local councillors this government has enabled and supported. For far too long, our councillors have been under-resourced and under-supported, and I want to commend you, Minister, and the government for having acknowledged the really important role that local authority members provide, and for having ensured that they are better resourced. I wouldn't say they are still as adequately resourced as they could be, but that's for another day's debate, but for actually taking action to ensure that they have some modicum of resourcing. It is really important as well that the local authority members, when it comes to housing, have been empowered by the Affordable Housing Bill. So for far too long, our local authority members have not been in a position to deliver any form of affordable housing in their local authority areas. And I know particularly in Dublin City and Dublin County and in many other parts of the country, affordability of housing is the second issue only to the supply of housing. So what this government has done, and what we at the Joint Oireachtas Committee have done in support of it, is brought forward the Affordable Housing Bill. And that has, for the first time in over a decade, given local authorities the power to not only deliver social housing, but also to deliver affordable housing. And for the very first time ever in the history of the state, affordable cost rental housing. And this is really important, and I know from speaking to our councillors that they really value this initiative. They really value the fact that for the first time they're going to be able to exercise and influence the delivery of not just social, but social and affordable cost rental homes on local authority lands. It is a huge innovation. It is long overdue and desperately needed. So they welcome that. They absolutely are committed to making use of the 20 billion funding that has been allocated by government to ensure a massive increase in the delivery of social and affordable homes, 90,000 social homes, 60,000 affordable homes. And Minister, I would urge you and government to continue with your support of the local authorities, continue to enable them, continue to fund them, because they are best positioned to understand their community's needs and to understand what needs to be delivered. And I suppose I would say that in Dublin City, when it comes to the delivery of social and affordable cost rental homes, what I look forward to out of this amendment is the fact that there is a requirement where and if and when the power is exercised by the Chief Executive to deliver social and affordable homes, public homes on public land, without a Part 8 process applying, that they will be required to commence construction before the 31st of December 2024. That deadline is really welcome. I know from speaking to councillors, they appreciate that some urgency is going to be brought to bear on the delivery of homes in our city and county, because for far too long they haven't been in a position. They've been on the coalface of dealing with their communities, of responding to their communities, of fighting for adequate social and affordable homes for their communities, but they haven't been in a position up until now to actually deliver it. So it is really, really important that they are enabled to do this, and that they are supported to do it, and that the Chief Executives work with the local authority members, inform them, make available the information, and actually take advantage of the value that those local authority members can bring to the process. So, Minister, I would hope that we can move swiftly to the next stage, I suppose, after we've done these amendments, and the new year. I look forward to what will be an enormous piece of work. More than 20 years since the last big planning and development legislation was brought forward, and that we can engage right across the House and bring forward then proposals and legislation that will be fit for purpose into the future, that can take us to the next 20, 30, 40 years, that will enable not just the delivery of homes and housing, but other vital social infrastructure. Energy projects. We are all acutely aware of the energy crisis. We, as a country, as a society, as an economy, we must secure our energy independence, and we have to move away from a situation where it's taking far too long for us to develop vital energy infrastructure. We have a huge and enormous opportunity with offshore wind, and I'm hoping that the legislation you will bring forward will enable the delivery of those renewables. Public transportation and the way we live and the way we move around, that infrastructure also. We need to ensure that we have a planning process that is objective, that is transparent, that is fit for purpose. Minister, Guramagat to you and to your department for the work that you've done on this, and I look forward to working with you on the future legislation. Guramagat.